Oh, countdown.
Yes.
Can you hear me? I muted my phone, so if you hear me, it's coming through the computer.
I, Kim,
Yes,
are you there?
I'm here. Are you? Oh no. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Kimberly Dixon.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I feel good. I feel good. I was nervous.
Okay.
I was nervous, but it's working.
Okay, that's the video. Still playing on my end. So it's internet lag here. It says I'm connected, secured. So hopefully it will perk up a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you on that. All right, sounds good. I think mine is going okay this time. Maybe we'll bounce back and forth every week. It'll be I'll have an issue, then you'll have a technical issue, then I'll have a technical issue. So it's your week.
What was that?
I said that we'll have a situation where every week the technical issues will bounce back and forth. So last week I had a technical issue. This week it's you. Next week it'll be me.
Okay, can't. I didn't. I've heard none of that. I heard.
Can you hear me coming through the computer at all?
I'm just no. I was saying that. No, I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but it's like the. I think it's mine because it was the video that was also behind.
Okay, yeah, you are slightly glitchy, so maybe it is yours.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Spectrum. This.
Spectrum Alpha, that's who I have.
I mean, well, last time it was okay. So I guess you just never know.
That's how they are. They want you to think it's going to work and then it doesn't.
All right. So I'm gonna hang up that. Yeah, it says I have full and everything, but it's looking kind of glitchy on my side from what I can see from the live stream.
Yeah, it's a little yeah, you're a little glitchy. Occasionally you freeze, like the image freezes, but your voice still comes
All
through.
right. Well, I'm all right, folks. Sorry about the technical difficulties on my end. Um, let's see if there's something I can fix. It says I have full service, like nothing seems down.
It's, it, this very moment is working pretty well.
Well, how about you take over, Kim, if you hear me? Because I see your picture on Facebook and it's nice and clear, and I'm all blurry. So, why would you just
I'm just so excited that it's not my stuff this time. That's all. But everyone, sorry for technical difficulties. As everyone, I'm sure, is probably had some point in time over the last several months where they've experienced technical difficulties because we all are having to do things from home given COVID-19 and just everyone just being at home a little bit more. So we're excited to be here again this week. It looks like I'm in charge, so everybody's in trouble because the vet is trying to troubleshoot what she has going on. And we got a lot of exciting stuff that we want to talk about today. It's actually kind of interesting. I say we have a lot of exciting stuff, but it definitely is interesting that not that I'm surprised by it, but just the wheels of sports are turning slowly. So we were preparing for today and thinking up different things that we could discuss and talk about. And part of me was like, well, man, what else is going on, right? I mean, you have kind of a lot of the same things that we talked about last week, but I think really some evolutions of those things, and some training camps have started with the NFL. So we'll get to talk a little bit with that, or about that rather, and just kind of see what our feel is here, because it's a crazy time. So having to keep everything together and having to keep the topics coming, we're working hard to do that for you all. And thankfully sports are back in some regard, but they're not completely back. So we're going to make it interesting and make it fun anyway. So with that beautiful verbose introduction, let's just get started. What do you think, Navette? You want to dive in? You feeling a little better about your technical stuff going on over there?
Um, yes.
You look better, and by that I mean
Okay,
you looked great the
it's
entire
clearer.
time, but your picture is much clearer.
Okay, and now I'm clean. Now your words are not coming in and out, so I
Okay,
think that's a good thing. Okay,
look at
yes.
God. Look at God.
All right. All right. There we go. There we go. All
All
right.
right.
And I don't, I'm glad, yeah, go ahead because I have no idea what you said.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I said we're gonna dive right in, and we're gonna start off with football, which I know is your favorite sport. So I don't know if you want to kick us
No,
off a little bit with
basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court.
that. Well, I'll put it this way. Yes, basketball is your favorite sport, but football is a very close second. I like football too. I think you might like it a little bit
That's
more
true.
than I do. But you're right.
That,
Basketball probably wins for both of
you
us.
know,
But yeah, we can
mhm.
start off. We got a little bit going on in the NFL. We got a little bit going on in the NCAA. We talked some last week about whether or not we thought any of these seasons were even going to happen, and some of the options of how they could happen. And it looks like we have some updates on that front in both of them. So we can start with the NFL if that's what you want to do, and just kind of talk about
It
what
sounds
we've
good to
seen.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, so
No,
I don't
that's
know if
good.
you had the opportunity to watch the interview that Tom Brady did this past week, talking about just the transition in Tampa Bay and what that looks like, and for him really discussing the most difficult and most challenging part is the mental aspect, because this is the first time in what 20 years that he's having to learn a playbook. So it was interesting to hear him talk about that. I mean, how much do you buy that, right? Do you buy that he actually is struggling to learn the playbook and is finding some challenges there, or do you think he's just talking and kind of making people have a little worry, if you will?
I'm calling complete BS on this.
All right.
I mean, for one thing, I mean, how often are they really there in the building, given the limitations of what they can and cannot do? Um, Number two, he's been in the league for, I know he's only been in one place, but still, it's not like he's a rookie or someone who this is who's coming off of a new season and or just got this really big deal all of a sudden moving to a new location because of a big out season trade. They were hot on the market.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm calling BS on this, and I don't know why Tom is making a big deal about learning the playbook for Tampa. It
See.
wasn't that complicated in the first place. Now, unless there's like some hidden part of it that they were hiding from Jameis. And now there's like, Tom is yours. And they gave him the key to unlock the hidden chapters, but it shouldn't be that complicated. Not from what I saw from the schemes that they ran the last couple of years. And then I don't think it's then trying to bring all these other players and trying to make it cohesive. I don't see how it's going to be that they're going to make it too difficult and too, I think everything's probably more simple and trying to, because they have so many moving new targets. So trying to make it gel more. You don't want to make things overly complicated. And like I said before, unless this is something different than what we've seen, um, the Tampa Bay give us in the last couple of years, I don't think I'm like worried about his ability to dissect that. And also, when he was talking about trying to find a way or make sometimes it trying to like the quarterback room, like getting used to the building and trying to find the quarterback room, these things. This is not summer camp, man. It's not like you, you know how you go to summer camp or somewhere for the first time, you're a little kid and you're scared, you got to get used to the place. He's a grown man, he's 43, and you can't find a quarterback room.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And here's the other thing: it's not like Tampa Bay had this playbook and they didn't know who was going to be in control of it, right? And it's not like this is something that just happened. To your point, this isn't a trade that just went through 2 weeks ago, and here we have this person showing up, and we thought we were going to have one person at the helm, and now we have someone different. No, we've known this for a couple months now, several months now, and you know what he's capable of doing. You know what he can do. If there's anything that maybe there's a limitation, the main difference between him and Jameis, other than accuracy, obviously, because Jameis likes to throw to the other team. But other than that, is the fact that Jameis does have more mobility in the pocket. Tom, that's just not his style. That's not what he does. He's not going to run the ball unless everything just opens up and there's no actual opportunity for him to do anything to get rid of it. And he thinks he can be successful in picking up a few yards. He that's just not his game. So anything that might be something where it was a run first, maybe they're not using that, but I'm with you. This man has been doing this for a very long time. He is very good at what he does, and part of what makes him who he is not only his accuracy, which did dip a little bit over the course of last year, but it's
He playing his
also
receiving core, which has been
but yeah, he is a
upgraded.
receiving core. Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime your receivers drop a pass, that goes against you, not against them. So you're accurate on that. But the other thing is it's the IQ, right? He doesn't make a lot of bad decisions. So in that sense, as you're getting this new playbook, that mental aspect is something that you know you can rely upon with Tom Brady. So I'm with you. I think he's just talking the good talk, if you will, trying to make it seem like things are challenging when really what he probably felt and wanted to say is if I could run plays in New England, I can definitely run plays in Tampa Bay. Things are going well. I'm not having any struggles, and we're just getting started, and we're doing what we can. Right. To your point, you've got a better receiving core. You've got people who have been brought in specifically. Gronk is going to be there. They played together before. Them having a different colored jersey on is not going to matter. So, yeah, I think he's just he just chit chatting with the
And I'm
announcers.
like, what? Just to talk. He was just talking. Like you said, he had this playbook for how long? How long we've been in in the quarantining? Like 4 months. He's had time to learn it, and pretty sure he learned. He knows it probably back and forward by now. And yeah. You can save that, Tom.
Tom, Timmy Tom, we don't believe you. Well, let's kind of stay along this line. We're talking about Brady. Let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about the Patriots.
Mm.
So Cam has been doing some interviews now. I think he's been up in New England for several days, maybe a couple of weeks. I can't remember exactly, but for a shorter period of time. But he's gotten up there and starting to get acclimated. To your point, starting to find the quarterback room and all that kind of stuff. His new summer camp. So, what do you think? What do you make of him in New England and playing within that scheme, and then the dynamic potentially between him and Bill Belichick?
Well, first of all, that is where the scheme is going to have to change because he's a different quarterback than Tom. So I don't know what to expect from New England now because this is a whole new weapon, and they can use him in different ways than they couldn't use Tom because he like everybody knows that Cam is like a dual quarterback, and he made the dual quarterback position popular. Superman on his chest. I guess the first one who can get immediately hurt. Rest in peace, RG3's career. And
Oh,
and so everybody knows what he can do. Like he's a running quarterback. If he can find a way to bulldoze into some yards, he's going to take that route, and which is part of the reason why he's had these injury issues in the last couple of years that put him in this position where he's in the Patriot at the Patriots right now. So I'm really curious to see actually New England's offense this year because it has to be completely different. They have to use Cam different than Tom. I mean, for one thing, and you were just talking about how accurate Tom Brady is, and that is not Cam's forte. Um, Even when he had his MVP season, and his accuracy numbers weren't that hot, you know. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm actually excited. I'm really excited to see that. We'll see the first game, first couple of games, if they make it to the second game or not. Uh, we'll see like how this gonna play out. Um, yeah, yeah. That's all
Yeah,
I can say.
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do to adapt to that weapon because I think it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, right? I think you're right. They have a new weapon in that he can be a lot more mobile, but they're losing the accuracy and the receiving core is still just okay, right? So you talk
Mhm.
about someone who's going to be throwing to subpar, or not, I don't want to say subpar, but just pretty average. No one, no stellar receivers, which is
I mean,
actually, but that's
I
kind of
mean, they
the
still have,
SFG. What's his name? But what's the
yeah,
guy's
him.
name that they picked
Uh
up?
huh. Oh no, the one who's always been there. I can't think. Julian Edelman.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
He
yes,
was
yes. No, he's
he
great.
was
I love
Super Bowl
Julian.
MVP. So
Yes, absolutely. So Julian Edelman is great, but that goes to kind of the New England way in the sense that more times than not, they have more of these mid-major receivers that became great. It seems like I don't know that anybody necessarily expected Julian Edelman to turn into the receiver that he became, and I think part of that was because he had someone who could put it in places that only he could get. So obviously he's talented
right,
and he
yeah,
has those skills, but he also had Tom Brady who was able to thread the needle and set him
yeah,
up for success other than what he
hmm
was doing on his own. So I think that's the other part that'll be interesting to see. We have some more mobility, but we have less accuracy and we don't have top tier receivers like you have in
right,
some of these other places that can save your bad passes or your
right,
passes that are slightly off and make you look a little better. So in that
yeah,
sense, I'm interested to see what they do with that playbook, how they adapt to having Cam there, and then too just Cam hopefully staying in control, staying healthy, all those sorts of things because he has over the past few years the injuries just have not been good for
no,
him. Obviously,
no.
he's had some issues with those. So, but beyond that, is there any in your mind? Is there any doubt that he's going to be starting even as they come in and do any preseason stuff? So there's a little bit. And the only reason I bring this up, saw
hmm
some of the talking heads right on ESPN talking
hmm
about Jarrett Stidham, who has been there since 2019. I think he was a fourth round pick, and he's only played, if my information is correct, he came in one game where
hmm
there was a pretty much a blowout, and
yeah.
he did okay. He threw a pick six to Jamal Adams, but other than that, he did okay. So, do you think there's really any conversation as to who's going to be starting?
I don't think so. Once again, I'm calling BS. we yeah, I'm not buying that Cam is not going to be the starter. Day one, game one for the Patriots. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I would be. But once again, I don't know. Look, he has to stink it up. He has to absolutely suck, not do in his part for Belichick to bench him. And he will do something like that. He plays no favorites. And that was one of the reasons people said that Tom left because he didn't get that special favoritism. He couldn't really have his way there as much as he probably would have liked.
right.
But I find it very hard to believe that Jared Stidham is going to start over Cam Newton. So it has to be either injury or Cam is not picking up the material. And so those are the only two ways I would see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that's the thing for me. That's the only slight question. All that stuff that I just said, just talking about the IQ of the game and that Cam unfortunately makes a lot of mistakes, right?
Hmm
His accuracy isn't what Tom Brady's accuracy was. And then again, we
Never
talk
has
about
been, even in college.
yeah, yeah. So we talk about receiving core and all this kind of stuff and everything. I don't really have much to go off of other than college career for Stidham, but at least what you read about him is that everyone's saying that he's just such has such a football IQ, such a high IQ, and he's very intelligent with the game and decision making. And so I wonder if that at some point plays a role in what they're doing there. Again, I agree with you that in my mind, he Cam is the starter. That's why they went and picked him up. They know what they're trying to do, and they're trying to not really replace Brady, but because you can't do that, but go and get someone who you believe can work hard
Hmm.
for you and run your offense. But there could be a little bit of an asterisk, question mark, whatever you want to call it, if we start to see some struggles from Cam. Because the other thing is, while they can develop that playbook a little more because you have the running game, Stidham's been there since for a year, and he's been studying, knows what they do, been learning under the tutelage of Brady and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So who knows? I feel like stranger things have happened, but I think it would take a lot before it came to that. But it'll be interesting to see how they play.
You're right, and this 2020, it's a
Anything,
year of Stranger Things. So who
anything is
knows?
possible in 2020.
And then, I mean, I think the Patriots have a lot more to consider. I mean, because not just their offense, look at their defensive side. I think out of all the teams in the league, they've had the most players to opt out due to
Yep.
COVID-19. And most of those hits came from their defensive side, which was their saving grace last year. So you have you have freaking Dante Howard, who has been like your stalwart, like your foundation piece. You're like, he gonna go out there and get his job done uh, for your defense. Like he's gonna hold it down in the middle of that linebacker position, and he's been doing it for a while for them, and he's not gonna be there. And so, and just thinking about all the other names they're losing on defense, and it's I found it kind of scary for them more on defense than offense this year. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, they drafted all these young players who pretty much are going to come in and slide right to the spot." But you cannot slide into an all-pro football player spot and then expect immediate results for a rookie. So I think the Patriots have more to worry about than Cam Newton. I think they could count more on him than on defense right
Yeah.
now. So put Cam out there so you can have some offense, and maybe your offense can handle the part of your defense this year. So it'll be kind of flip flop with what's going on last year.
hmm Yeah, I think just for me, the entire team is a question mark right now for the very reason that you just said. All these players who have opted out, they have a couple of position players who have opted out, who were players that were starting last season. I know one of their starting running backs it has
Mhm.
opted out. They have a receiver that has opted out. So just thinking about what Cam is going to do, his accuracy, lack thereof, who's going to be in those spots. You have the rookies coming in, and then on the defensive side, similarly, you have a slew of players, very, very talented defensive unit that are going to be missing some crucial pieces. So I think right now, for the first time in a long time, the New
Mhm.
England Patriots are a big question mark, and
Oh yeah.
we will see where they fall and what happens. And it looks like there's more security and confidence in Tampa Bay, which has happened. I mean, so
Yeah.
welcome to
It's
2020.
2020.
Only fitting for 2020 that no one knows what's going on with the Patriots and Tampa Bay is in Super Bowl contention conversations already. So
Yeah.
this is the kind of year we're having.
It's the upside down,
We are in the
literally.
upside down. If you want it to Stranger Things, if you want it to go, here we are. Um, so cool. So let's just slide on in to NCAA football, and so far it looks like things for the most part are still ticking along, and seasons are planning to be played. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I know we talked a little bit about it last week, but we got another week behind us, more positive tests in other sports that are similarly situated to what's going on in college football and the NFL. And looks like things are still moving forward.
Okay, there's so much going on right now in college football. Not only are they trying to make it put a little band-aid on and put on their happy faces and make it seem like they're going to play this season and all is well. Everyone's doing their individual things in the conferences. Most conferences are all going to in-conference games, with one maybe possible outside. Um, non-conference game for probably a mid-major or something like that. And then you have all of this conversation about like up in Colorado State, you have coaches telling players to lie about whether or not they have had COVID testing, positive testing, to ignore the rules altogether. So, what is that telling you about what's the real, issue here? It definitely not safety. You're not caring about your players here if you're telling them to lie about having COVID-19, and then you have the players in the Pac-12 unionizing against, which I'm like, power to the people. Go for, I was when I saw that, I did not see it coming, and especially from the Pac-12. I don't know why. I guess it makes more sense. The West Coast, more progressive there, West Coast. So and then you have like every other month you have a coach who says some kind of racial slur, but of course they didn't mean to say it.
It was an accident.
It was an accident, and it was supposed to, right. You know how it get out there, and no. So it's so much going on in college football, and I'm like, and you're trying to tell me we're gonna have a full season, and then you have so many different start dates, and we see the schedules, but we still don't see how they're gonna make it work. We don't see actionable plans for how they think it's gonna work, and then some of they're building in cushions here and there, and this is not flossing, and this is not glossy. College football, it's terrible. It's a hot mess.
I was just about to say that, the biggest of hot messes. To me, again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later here in this episode, but just like leadership, right? You have coaches who are not being, so let's start at the lower level leadership. You have coaches who are not being good leaders. You have coaches saying to lie, and coaches using racial slurs, and there's just so much going on. And I'm sure that to the players, you just feel like not only do you not get paid for any of the stuff you do, right? Like you don't benefit from this, but
Mm-hmm.
now there is an international pandemic going on, and you're still expected to play. I mean, I haven't seen many talks about, and I know there have been a few players who have decided to opt out and things like that, but there haven't been a lot of talks of what that means, if they'll be able to get the eligibility, and whether or not, again, I feel like the season's not going to finish for the very reason that we've talked about other things. I mean, I think it's going to be similar to what's happening on a lower level. If you think about locally, schools starting to go back, and I don't know if y'all have started to see this, but we have schools that you see they go back first, second day, people are starting to have symptoms, and now they have to shut it down again. So I think it's going to be a similar thing, because I haven't seen a clear cut plan as to how they are going to keep these kids safe. And at the end of the day, that's what they are, right? They're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they are making all this money for the university. So the university doesn't want to pull the plug on it. They want to try and get some sort of income this season from the sports this fall. And it's like, look what you're doing. And to me, that tells me what you care about most. And it's not about
Mm-hmm.
the individuals, and it's not about the players, and especially at those schools where even the coaches are encouraging you to be dishonest, right? And then you go a step higher than that, and you start looking at athletic directors, you start looking at the NCAA level leadership, right?
Girl.
And no one's willing to do that, and no one's willing to pull the plug. They're making it be an individual thing, and we saw UConn, the first FBS school that said, "Yeah, no, we're not doing this." And for me, at least it shows that whether they do or they don't, whether there were arguments about it or not, to me it says you care a little bit more than some of these other places, because for you,
Well, even that was about money too, Kim.
I think it was. I think it was
Because
absolutely.
yeah,
Go
because
ahead.
we have to give some background on UConn here. So they just went independent. They're trying to do like a Notre Dame thing. So all of their games were with scheduled outside conferences because they are in no conference. So if all of the conferences are now playing just within their conference,
You
then
got to cancel.
UConn has no one to play. So that's why they are not, because they had no one to play, and so it would be more of a financial burden for them to try to play the couple of games they had scheduled than to go out. So that was more about the money too, and so it kind of makes it look like they're doing the right thing, but it's still money. And I wonder if they were still in the
I'll
conference.
take right thing, wrong reason in this sense. On
Okay.
this particular occasion, just because of what the stakes are. But you're
Hmm.
absolutely right. I mean, it's not worth it for them. But at least in my mind, you have some player safety. They didn't mean to. It wasn't their intention, but good for them for the kids, rather the guys that play on the team. Good for them for not having to deal with these types of decisions, because it's tough. I mean, I can't imagine being 18, 19 years old, and this is the dream, right? And you're trying to
Yeah.
get to the next level, and this is important, and you're supposed to be here for 3 years. And what does it mean
Hmm.
if I don't play? What does it mean if I do, but then I get sick? I mean, and again, 18,
Yeah.
19, making that type of
That's why
decision.
I'm really impressed with this deal, this union that the Pac-12 players have, kind of come together and said. So I thought, well, just from what I was hearing and what people were saying, that most of the players were like, oh, I want to play. But then you see this union, and you also see some big players. Like every day, you see like maybe some like all ACC player, or you have the big player from Minnesota who just opted out, who's I can't think of his name right now because I really don't watch Minnesota football. Sorry,
Let me look.
but
I don't
mm,
either, so I don't
I'm
know.
not from Minnesota,
Yeah,
and it's
or
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Uh,
Minnesota.
but yeah, according to draft projections, he's the number 14 player on the draft board in terms of talent. So like he's like it's not worth it. And so you have now you're seeing like these big players who actually kind of have a good feeling, a good about where they about being actually drafted in the NFL draft. So saying like it's not worth it, and then you have these players who are like in the Pac-12 who are saying, yeah, what about our safety? What about all this racial and social justice issues going on? Are you gonna pay us? So I don't see how college football is going to. I don't see how it's going to work. It's not going to work this season, and it's going to change forever after this because this. I don't think anything like the players coming together and waking up and knowing that they're because if you look back at one prime example was in a couple of, like it was a while ago, and the Missouri players when they all decided not to play for Missouri football that one season because of the racial issues that were going on campus,
Hmm.
and they wanted someone fired. They wanted was the AD or some dean there fired because of some type of racial insensitive issues going on, and so they stood together. They said, "We're not going to play until this person is out of their position." And at first, everyone comes out with these statements like we stand by, but then once the football players who are bringing in all this money, you have all these revenue streams coming from their backs, and they tell you they're not going to do it for you. They're not going to go out and play, injure themselves, potentially ruin their careers just to bring you money in. So with all these dollars on the line, they're like, oh, you know what? We think we get rid of this person, so the person was fired. So just knowing this players knowing that they have the power in the position in this situation, so they're very strong. The strength in numbers, of course, but I mean they really have all the leverage if you think about it. And if so, and once they wake up to that, I don't think you can really be college football as has been in the past, especially this year, because it's very clear that it's all about money, not about student athletes.
Absolutely, and that's the thing that you see that I think athletes sometimes forget. And well, I don't want to say that they forget. I think it's the two things that are in play. It's I realize that I am the most important piece to this puzzle, and then without me, they can't do these things that they're doing. They can't make the money. So if I get all of my teammates together, then they need to at least listen to us, acknowledge what we're saying, and we can make some change. The other thing is I'm also trying to have a career in this, and I want this to be my ultimate path and stepping stone to get to my ultimate goal. And if I do this, if I lose time, if I lose traction, then maybe there's a situation where it impacts my ability to do that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I don't want to sell them short and say that they don't realize that they have all the power and all the leverage. But I think sometimes you're having to compete with, especially those athletes that were not necessarily highly recruited coming in and
Right.
need all of those years to really grow and develop. And then when they get towards that third, fourth year, then it's like, oh man, we didn't see this person at all, and coming in, and look where they are now. So it's always,
Mhm.
trying to balance those two things. But more power to the Pac-12. I support it, and
Yeah.
hopefully they get some actual results and people start to listen, because it's quite ridiculous that this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Once again, 2020.
2020, ah, good times, good times. I thought it was going to be a little better than. Not that it's been. I mean, as far as personally, it hasn't been bad. You know what I mean? But it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything that's going on in the world.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the stuff that's just been tough. And so since we're talking about things that are tough and that are not
Hmm.
positive and that are,
Yes.
you know, on the negative end of this spectrum, let's just go ahead and mosey on down to Lubbock, Texas. As we talk about leadership and issues with leadership, the coach
Mhm.
of the women's basketball team, Marlene Stolens, has been fired because she's running, or excuse me, was running an abusive program. And I'll say, when I first heard it, I immediately kind of made the comparison and thought of Sylvia Hatchell, right? Because that's kind of at UNC. That's kind of what the reports were,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
it was
Hmm.
overall abuse. But once you start to unpack it, it looks like it's a little bit different than the types of abuse that we normally see. So
Hmm.
the information that I read about this was talking about her saying that they had to maintain a certain like heart rate while they're out
Yeah.
there during the
Right.
game, and things that just aren't safe from a physical
Hmm.
standpoint, not so much what you normally see with the racial issues and things like
Right.
that. So it's interesting to see someone who is making these demands physically. Not that you don't
Yeah.
think it
Mentally.
happens
Yeah.
to a certain extent in all sports, right? I'm sure that all sports, they have a metric that they go by, but you would hope that in making those metrics, you have physicians who are there, and you have people who say, okay, it's okay to push your athlete and say, here's what our minimum expectation is. We
Hmm.
want you to be able to run a mile in 7 minutes. Okay, that's fine, right?
Hmm.
But some of this stuff, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like this.
Yeah, and also it's like there was some like just just different like telling people that they were fat and just weighing on like pretty like the psyche of these young women, pretty like going to the core of like I already have these different things in the world, and I can only imagine being an athlete trying to make sure that you have balancing all these things and making sure that you stand on top of your physical, your classes, and like doing all that is a mental struggle, and then you add it into your these people are supposed to be supporting you, helping you to grow and develop as young women, and get you ready for the world wherever that may take you into maybe your next level, maybe playing for the WNBA overseas or going into professional work somewhere, and you're not prepared because they're giving you all these issues, like they're messing with your psyche, like so your emotional, it's like it was emotional abuse, like a and the top of the physical abuse, and then there are also some allegations out there about the trainer who was sexually abusing the
Yeah.
players, touching the players in their groin areas and the breast areas in terms of saying it was part of their style of stretching you out, I guess. So I
No.
don't know. But it was a lot going on there, and like you said, leadership. It was, and that she allowed this to happen. That she was a perpetuator of this. It's just terrible because you, especially for parents who sending their kids out to the world, and you're giving, trusting the coaches to do the right thing. Just to think that isn't for the longest just because they thought they had to. So it's very sad reading that. And
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, and this isn't always, but oftentimes when you have things like this happening, there's a correlation at least of the program being very successful, right? In that, in your mind, there's a reason why I'm doing this. I'm making them keep this certain heart rate, or I'm doing these inappropriate things, because in the long run, for me, it's a very messed up thought process, and clearly it's not one that makes sense, and it's very wrong. But I think what you see oftentimes is, I'm doing this for the desired outcome, right? And Texas Tech, it's not like they have this very well established, dominating basketball program. So to that end, what's the point, right? You shouldn't do it anyway. But what's the point? So it's really just bizarre to me, and just really very sad. There's so much. The theme so far of this episode, we should call it just lack of leadership. That's what it's all going back to so far. Everything we've talked about, you just have these people who are in charge and at the top, and they're making terrible decisions, and at the expense of the very individuals that they need in order to keep them where they are. Mind boggling. 2020, 2020, lack of leadership. I'm gonna set that right there. I'm not gonna meddle. I'm just gonna set that right there, and let people draw their own conclusions for what I mean by that. But um, yeah, we just got a lack of leadership all over. Yes. Okay. Now, even more
Okay,
so,
yeah, as you can see, my
was that your internet being funny or no? Maybe not. Okay. Well, I think.
going back to what was happening to me before. So
Oh, I see. I see. You got a little bit of lag. Well, that's fine. I'll keep pushing us along, and you whenever you're here, just let me know. We'll be glad to hear from you. So there's what we're learning is right now there's no leadership in sports other than, well, that's not true. In some of the sports there are, but in most of the sports that we're seeing here, there is not. And we transition now over to Major League Baseball, and we got a similar thing. I mean, we talked a little bit about this last week, but now even better, we have quotes from our commissioner of the Major League Baseball League, and Rob Manfred, and what he has said this week, that the outbreaks that has led to all of the postponement of games. And I just saw that there's another series that was just postponed yesterday or the day before, so it's continuing to happen. And he basically said that they're going to play. He said that the players need to be better, and that he, let's just focus on this. I'm going to actually, let me read the quote. We are playing. We, okay? We are playing. The players need to be better, but I am not a quitter in general, and there is no reason to quit now. We have had to be fluid, but it is manageable. Listen, here's the problem with this. He's the person that's in charge of ultimately making the decisions about whether or not they're playing, what the schedules were going to look like, what they were going to do to try and keep these players safe and be able to move forward. But he's not the one that's out there on the field. He's not the one that is at risk of contracting the disease because he's out there being around all these people. And yet, in this quote, he makes it sound like it's him. We are not quitting. What are you doing? There's nothing for you to quit. What are you talking about? We are not quitting. And to blame it on the players when essentially you have done nothing to put safeguards in place. I mean, what do you expect? It's just it's just such an asinine comment, in my opinion, for him to say we are not playing and then to say I am not a quitter. This has nothing to do with you other than the fact that you did nothing really to say here's what we need to do to keep players safe. So don't sit here and act like when you say we're not quitting and I'm not a quitter, like you're pitching for the Dodgers on Monday. Like there's nothing for you to quit other than, of course, you'll lose money, right? So I don't know. It blows my mind. Blows my mind. Um, Lack of leadership once again, because you do have, I think, Major League Soccer's done a good job. The NBA has done a fantastic job, and again, we talked about the differences and how they've been able to do such a good job. But we also discussed that they had a lot of conversation about this, and that they're going to do it. They're going to do it in a way that can be done safely. And I feel like Major League Baseball never really put that caveat on it. It sounds like we are going to play no matter what. So I don't know. What do you think, Nevette?
so can you hear me or
I can. I can. I assume there's a little lag because I saw you like the listening ear and then you went to speak,
okay.
but I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the reason why I know what you said because I'm watching it on Facebook and it has this auto generated caption. So that's how I'm following the conversation. Um,
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so to blame this on the players is ridiculous. That's why, like how you mentioned with the NBA and MLB, they put the safeguards in place just for this reason, because you can't trust everybody to do the right thing. If that was the case, we wouldn't be in this position as we are in this as a country, because everybody would do what they need to do so that the numbers should go down and we could literally flatten the curve that everybody's been talking about for so long. But that's not the case, because you can't trust everybody to do the right thing. So to say, and then to like the responsibility part, like leadership 101, once again talking about leadership, these people are getting paid like buku money to do this is your job, and you're not doing it well. So I mean, I can do better than that. Can I get some of that action, some of your paycheck, and I could make the decisions for you? I would gladly do that for you if you would pay me to
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
But but going back to yes, so just trying to say that it's all the players' fault. What are you doing to help the players make the right decisions? How are you containing this? And this has to be a contained thing. You just can't give people free reign to live life as they have been doing, because that's not going to work. So money, 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 money.
Yeah, well, and another thing that I thought about when you were making your points is you talk about having that leadership, and he talks about being fluid. For him, being fluid means we'll cancel some games, we'll postpone them, and we'll make them up later. But how about be a leader and realize that you have not done everything right, and have some sort of maturity about yourself and acknowledgement and self awareness of how you dropped the ball. And now let's be fluid and figure out what we can do as we continue to move forward to make it better. Because that's something that I have not seen either. The only thing that they are doing to address the issues are putting little band aids on it, and those band aids are in the form of postponement of games. They're not actually addressing the issue or enforcing additional guidelines or whatever the case may be to try and circumvent these testings of positive, or these positive testings from continuing to happen. So money is right, and it's just a situation where he's not willing to have that self-reflection and self-awareness, and in my opinion that's one of the very first signs of a poor leader. So there you go. MLB, welcome to 2020. This is actually, Nevette, this
2020.
reminds me of us being actually on ESPN or wherever, and you have a little thing in your ear and there's the lag, right? And so you have to listen, and then and you see the head nod, and then you give it a few seconds, and then you respond. Yep.
Yes, Kim. Yes. That's it exactly. Yes.
Good, good. Just keep playing it that way. I think it'll work well. Just put a little here and act like I'm in your ear, and then just nod, and we'll keep going that way.
Gotcha.
All right, so let's talk about something that doesn't have to do with poor leadership. And I'll actually ask Nevada a question to kick it off. So we'll have a little lag, and I can be in her ear, and she can nod and then respond. Let's go to the NBA. Let's talk about what we're seeing in the bubble, and any differences from last week to this week. I mean, the one thing that I've noticed is it looks like Portland has caught a little bit of fire. What do you make of this, Navette?
I am scared of Portland. I feel like since they are going to make that A spot, because the Grizzlies have not won one game, have they? I'm not sure. I stopped following them after Jaren Jackson
They
got
won one.
hurt, and then the Pelicans. Yeah, and then so the Pelicans. Yeah. So let's not talk about the Pelicans. So both of our Duke Heavy teams are now out. which is sad. No more Grayson on Reddick Ashen, but we'll still have Gary Trent Jr. raining threes out there. But I'm scared of him to rain threes on the Lakers. Um, Especially since the Lakers are averaging less than 100 points in this whole thing. I mean, so where is the firepower going to come from? It seems like everybody else has more offense than we do. And then we have our defense also around the perimeter is going to be lacking since, we don't have Avery Bradley anymore. And then Rondo is, we don't know when to expect him to come back. So I am scared out of my mind of Portland.
Yeah, and I can understand why. And I've been watching some interviews with Dame here too, and I mean he just seems like he's rebirthed, if you will. I mean he said that he didn't want to come to the or go to the bubble if they did not have a realistic chance of making a push to not only get into the playoffs but to make a run and go deep into the playoffs. So he's playing like himself, but he's very much got a hot hand right now. He's playing very, very well. Carmelo is playing the way that you would expect Carmelo to play. I think some people maybe don't expect him to play this way, but you can tell that he took care of himself during the quarantine time period. He worked hard. He's worked on his body. He's worked on his game. I mean, so they have a lot of pieces that are coming together at the very right time, and I think that a lot of teams should be nervous to play against them for the reasons that you said. I mean, I think that there are other teams on the in the West that are not playing their best right now, and that's not what you want as you go down the stretch, getting close to the playoffs. So it'll be interesting. I know they had a game this afternoon against the Clippers, and Kawhi was sitting out for load management rest. So I do not know the outcome. I'll see if I can look it up now to see if it's. Do you know?
Yeah, that's why I'm. Even though they were playing well against the Clippers, I don't know the final score. It was they have a lead going to the fourth quarter, I think, before we went on. Um, Instead of being alert, I guess they're still playing. Um, so I'm not taking this game as serious because Kawhi is not playing, so I can't give a really good baseline of what's going on. I don't know. I can't trust this game per se yet. So we'll see if eight does beat one, and they do get to play the Clippers. That'll be interesting because there'll be defense on offense more. But then you also have, PG-13 can get real hot out there on around the perimeter. For threes too when the time is right. But so we'll see. But yeah, Portland, they have definitely been the hottest team in the bubble. They have not lost as far yet, and they're gonna make the A spot. And yeah, I just hope we're ready, man. I'm like I'm scared. Um, this is not fun anymore. Okay.
But that's the I guess that's probably the scariest part for you, right? Because at the beginning of the season, from both of us, we weren't looking at Portland, right? If there was any real conversation, we were talking about maybe being scared, and you weren't scared, but more so prepared because you know the Clippers are coming. So it's a different ball game when you're now in the position that you're in, and you see that you have this team that you never expected to potentially pose an issue, and how well they're playing, and then how poorly the Lakers have been playing since they've been back in the bubble. So I can understand your concern. Good luck. I hope it goes well for you. Either way, I'm just trying to make a push to even up. Well, maybe not even up, but get closer to you in our pick'ems, which is a nice transition to say this. I am going to challenge you, Navette, because maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I don't have anything better to do, or maybe I just like losing. But NBA has a pick'em for the bubble playoff bracket. And I think that you and I should fill it out, and we need to set some parameters as to how we determine who wins, right? Let's say neither of us gets the final pick correct, maybe we just count how many picks you got right, and that's how we determine who wins ultimately. But with the way sports are going, what I want to say is maybe we can have this be a winner takes all because we don't have enough sports for me to catch up with you. So I would like to challenge you to winner takes all, NBA pick 'em. We'll pick the teams or the rounds rather, and whoever has the most picks at the end of the season, that person wins the entirety of this year as far as picks are concerned.
Okay. That's very interesting, Kim. I'm game. I'm game. I just I have to have faith in my Lakers. But if not, I like it. I like it. So are we going to give these games the same weight as the championship game? Like maybe we're going to do like half points maybe for these pick'ems.
Yeah, we can do half points. I'm fine with that. We'll talk about it and we can set a point system based on I guess the round or whatever. We can figure that out. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Cool. I'll be there.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'll be there in my J's. I'm ready.
And I'm probably gonna be there in either my rainbows or my Crocs because I don't like shoes.
Let's see. Oh, the rainbow flip flops.
You know it.
Yeah, we gotta let Megan know we gotta get you. But then like who gonna see you in the J's? I mean, like there's nowhere to wear them to. Uh,
Yo, so we talked about my lack of being a sneakerhead because I just don't really like wearing shoes. But I have a dope pair of Pumas and I haven't been able to wear them anywhere because it's quarantine. So they're still super duper fresh in the box, just waiting.
well, Puma's making a push. They've signed a lot of the young basketball stars coming out last couple of years, and you got J Cole. He might be in the league rocking some Pumas, so you never know. Uh, J Cole for business workout. There you go. Mhm.
Jacob, Jacob. So here's one thing that we did not talk about before this, but I thought we should throw it out there and kind of end on this. So just following professional tennis, I think we had mentioned that they were continuing, but maybe we didn't last week. But it looks like they're planning to play the U.S. Open, and I will say for tennis, it's very similar in the sense to golf. So any sport to that sense where you're not playing with the team, it makes a lot of sense for them to continue and push forward. You just limit or I guess take away the crowd and the atmosphere. So there are ways you can control that. But I was unaware. Here's the real reason I brought this up. I was unaware that the French Open had been postponed and not canceled. Apparently, about a week or I think 2 weeks after the U.S. Open is slated to end, the French Open is planning to start. So that's just very interesting to have a French Open in the late summer, getting knocking on the door of fall here. Um, I missed that somehow. I don't know if you knew that that was what was happening, but it'll be interesting to have two Grand Slams so closely together.
Wow, that is not that is not standard operations for tennis. They try to let their players get um, lots of time in between in between the Grand Slams to get their body right, their strength and conditioning. But no, I had not heard that the French Open said that they were going to I guess unpostpone their tournament this year. I find that interesting because I think it's all about if what happens with the U.S. Open, how well that works. If it goes down well there, with well, if they've been contain the testing and the results. And Serena's planning on playing. So if you have Serena out there, that's always a draw. A couple other big female players have said they weren't going to play. And I think Raja said he's not. Not Raja. Rafa said he's not going to play. So we'll. And I think the U.S. Open still be successful without like the big like some of those players. If you have Serena, if you have Joker, that's all you need. But yeah, I think the French Open is like hedging their bet is going to go well. And yeah, then I would see like the turnaround because like once again these opens like these Grand Slams are not back to back, so that's very quick on their part. But I guess they're trying to get that window too before like the cases go up because they want to like in the winter and adding in flu cases, you might see some more, and then never know what's gonna happen this year. So like this is their time if they want to do it. So that's interesting. Once again, money, money, money.
Absolutely, especially because you were talking about the turnaround period for rest and recuperation. But here's the other thing to remember is that between the US Open and the French, the surface difference. So the reason you have that time in between is so you can train on that particular surface. So you're going from a hard court with the US Open, and you typically have the season of hard court tournaments leading up to the Grand Slam. And similarly, leading up to the French Open, you typically have a season of clay court tournaments leading up to the French Open. So you play differently, the ball bounces differently, your shots are different. And so now you're not having that extra additional training time to switch your game from one to the other. I think for some of the very well seasoned vets, I mean, maybe they'll be able to make that transition a lot more quickly. But if you think about some of the younger players that are still really getting their feet up under them, it could be prove very difficult for them. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes and how this short turnaround impacts the play of these top players.
And also, it's yeah, concern too for the younger players. They're going to feel like they have to do this because of money, and so that's always an issue too. And like they're like beholden to participate in these things. They don't have really an option because the bigger you are in the rankings, the bigger your pay scale. And if you win a Grand Slam, if you have opportunity to play, that's money there too. And those typically your biggest stars. It's just the security too for those younger players, like trying to risk themselves out there, maybe like unnecessarily, and they probably wouldn't have done it in any other circumstance.
Right.
Just the whole system, it's a whole like pay inequity big thing in tennis, not only just between male and females, but also between how high ranked you are. So that's interesting. We'll see tennis what you doing. But I kind of feel like I feel bad because I want to see tennis. I love tennis. I want to see basketball. I love basketball. I want to see football. I love football. So I want to see these sports out there, but I don't want like the all these things on my country. Like, oh, I want this so bad. That and then people are going there like put themselves on the line for it pretty much. But yeah, I hope they have their ducks in a row with the French Open. I hope the U.S. Open goes well because it is in New York, and New York just turned the corner, like just, and we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with all of that because the other thing you talked about for the pressure of those young players beyond just the money that they could potentially win, it's also moving up in the rankings so that for future tournaments they can earn more money because tennis the rankings are based on a point system and it's based on how far you go in the different tournaments that you play in. So if you have someone like Rafa who sits out, well, he loses all these points, and we'll see. I don't know what the differential is between him and the next person, but potentially that slides him back into a lower position than he was, but that means it gives someone else a chance to move up. So I think some of these younger players, for that reason, that they do have that pressure on them. So I agree with you. I hope it all goes well. I want to watch sports also, but not at the expense of people getting hurt or sick and things like that, because I'd much rather continue to make the sacrifice that we had become so accustomed to making and be able to get back to full-fledged everything in the spring of 2021. I mean, if that's what it takes, I'd be willing for them to shut everything down for that sense. But money is driving this, so that's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. We will see. Yeah, yeah,
I love that you laugh at the lag, Kim. Like every time. uh, yeah. Let's see. Right. Yeah. So I just want my faves to be safe out there. So like you said, 2020, you never know what's gonna happen. And then like how like once again, how would this like be weighted with like will they give like people like Rafa or if he sits out like some kind of some kind of saving grace maybe because of the situation because of his COVID and I don't know if the WTA is cares that much about that. But I know he cares about rankings. So if the U.S. Open goes well, you better bet your bottom dollar he's going to be out there in the French Open because that's his court claim.
definitely.
He's gonna
Yeah.
he's gonna put it
That's
all on the line for that.
the jam. Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. And I guess what I'll do here, since there is a lag, unless you stop me in the middle of my talking, I'll go ahead and wrap this up for us and bring this episode to a close. But if you have something else, just stop me in the middle of this. So thank you everybody for watching as we talked about the lack of leadership across college and professional sports. Hopefully next week we can talk about improved leadership across college and professional sports. But we'll be right here again next week, bringing you more sports floss gloss.
Gotcha.
Ooh, so good to me.
And now it's gonna say network error. Yes, I know.
Oh, you're trying to stop it?
I, yes, and it's not. And I guess we're still live, and it won't stop because I have a network error. I know I have a network. I'm just gonna close out the
Yeah, I think
close
you're
out the
good.
whole page. Bye, y'all.
Later.